morning. Today I'm going to be reviewing the EZA 1972. This watch is available from ezawatches.com for €689 excluding VAT. So firstly, let's look at the box that the 1972 comes in, and then I'll talk you through the other items one gets with the piece. So the 1972 comes in this matte black cardboard outer protective sleeve. As you can see, it has the EZA brand logo and automatic in silver on the lid. So one removes the protective cardboard sleeve, and inside is the watch box itself. The watch box is made from solid wood. It has EZA automatic embossed on the lid. Stitching is absolutely flawless on the perimeter of the lid, and it's fully upholstered with a grained vinyl plastic. So the design of the watch box really reminds me of the kind of watch boxes that Rolex were using in the 1990s in the pre-ceramic era. And I think it's a credit to EZA that they haven't cut any corners with regards to their execution of the watch box. Solid wood rather than being cardboard or plastic, beautifully finished, very aesthetically pleasing. The interior is varnished to a very high standard, and as you can see inside the lid there are two elasticated straps. Purpose of the elasticated straps are to house the additional rubber tropic strap which comes with the piece, and it's housed as you can see. So the watch itself is protected by a fabric envelope with 4 flaps. As you can see, one folds out the flaps and the watch sits inside. So very well protected in shipping, very aesthetically pleasing presentation. The felt fabric material is very nice to look at, but it also does suffice in protecting the watch from scratches. There's also a metal tang which is fully upholstered with felt fabric, and that clips around the watch strap and it prevents the watch sliding around inside this fabric envelope. So it really does replicate the kind of watch boxes that Rolex were using in the 1990s, and I think it's wholly a credit to EZA, but also it's very aesthetically pleasing and it really does suit a 1972 heritage reissue piece. So very good quality watch box. Inside the watch box, one also gets this EZA seal, which is pressed around this fabric tag, as you can see. And it's a nice finishing touch to the watch to have the EZA brand logo on the seal. It's an indication of quality. And as I've discussed, the watch also comes on 2 straps. The vintage grained leather strap that I showed you on the watch, and if that's not to your personal taste, one can also fit the watch onto this vintage style tropic rubber strap. And I really think it's a credit to EZA that they've included 2 strap options. They haven't cut any corners with regards to the straps. In the 1970s, tropic rubber straps like this were incredibly popular, and therefore, bearing in mind that this is a heritage reissue piece, the 1972, it really does fit the aesthetic of the watch. Nice heavy gauge of metal to the solid stainless steel tang and buckle, and beautifully signed with the EZA brand logo, as you can see. So finishing is good, quality is good, and to have 2 sliding keepers works very well. So I really like it. Now, with regards to EZA, firstly I want to talk a little about the brand. EZA were a popular brand in the 1970s. The watch is made in Pforzheim in Germany. Now, originally EZA went bust in the 1970s, like many Swiss and German brands during the quartz crisis. So what's happened is investors have now resurrected the EZA brand, and they've taken incredible steps with regards to detail. They are now producing the watches in Pforzheim in Germany, which was the original location of EZA in the 1970s. So I think credit has to be given to the investors that they are making every effort to reproduce EZA watches to the same high standards as the originals from the 1970s. So this 1972 was originally produced by EZA during the 1970s before the brand went bust. Now, the original version had a 36mm case diameter, which by today's standards would be considered small. So I think EZA have made the correct decision by scaling up the proportions of this 1972 heritage reissue. The case diameter of this piece is 39.6mm. It has a 50mm lug-to-lug measurement, and it has a thickness of 12mm. The lug width is 20mm, which beautifully balances the head of the piece. I think a 20mm lug width is the perfect balance for a 39mm case. So they've got the proportions just right. I think they made the correct decision scaling up from 36 to 39mm to make this piece more contemporary. With regards to the rest of the specification, it's only 83 grams on this grained vintage leather strap. and that comes as a surprise for an automatic piece with a 39mm case. The case is 316L grade stainless steel, as one would expect, solid 316L grade stainless steel bezel, which is coin edge finished with a ceramic loomed bezel insert. Now, there have been some notable upgrades to the specification from the original 36mm 1970 specification. The original would have had plexiglass crystal, which is like acrylic, and the problem with acrylic domed crystals is they are very prone to being scuffed and scratched. So I think ESA have made the correct decision by upgrading from using plexiglass or acrylic to using a domed sapphire crystal, which is harder than mineral crystal or plexiglass respectively, and therefore more scratch resistant. Another upgrade to the specification is they have added AR coating to the underside of the domed sapphire crystal, and as you can see when I tilt the piece at an oblique angle, there is a slight blue tint to the domed sapphire crystal. So it does suffice in making the dial, hands and applied indices less reflective, and therefore improves the legibility in all light conditions. I really like the use of blue tinted AR coating on the underside of that domed crystal. Now the interesting thing to note is that it's only 12mm thick, including that domed sapphire crystal. And that's very impressive because it's the kind of thickness one would normally expect with a manual wind, alternatively a quartz powered piece rather than an automatic. Usually with automatic powered pieces, the trade-off of having an automatic movement with a rotor on the underside is that means additional thickness to the case and also the screw down stainless steel case back to accommodate the rotor on the underside of the movement. Naturally, quartz movements and manual wind movements are significantly thinner, and they allow for slimmer cases and lower profile case backs. So really, to get a 12mm thick piece in a 39mm diameter case is very impressive, bearing in mind that it has a domed sapphire crystal. Looking at the watch, I would expect it to be well over 13mm, but really 12mm makes for a very comfortable and low profile piece. Now, with regards to the rest of the specification, it has a very dark charcoal grey dial, which is almost black, and that is very true to the original 1970s diver made by ESA. They've done the perfect job of replicating it. The applied indices are identical, as are the red stripes. The hands and also the silver framing of the date complication at 3 o'clock are all true to the original. So really they've done everything right. They've upgraded the specification with regards to sapphire crystal, and they've also upgraded the bezel material specification. In the 1970s it was popular to use bakelite as a bezel material, but the problem with bakelite was that it was prone to being scuffed and scratched, as was plexiglass and acrylic dome crystals, as I've discussed. So ESA have made the correct decision by upgrading the bezel insert material to ceramic, and they've also loomed the Arabic numerals and the triangle on the ceramic bezel insert, which improve the legibility in low light conditions. So the dial is well executed, the hands are very well finished, very easy to read in all light conditions due to the AR coating on the underside, and I also think the execution of the loomed ceramic bezel insert is absolutely outstanding. It's the kind of finishing one would expect to see on a high tier piece such as a Rolex or Omega. It really is a credit to ESA. The quality of the ceramic and the Arabic numerals is just done to perfection. Solid stainless steel bezel made from 316L grade stainless steel, beautifully finished, and I like the low profile coin edge finishing to it. It really does complement the big screw down crown, which is also coin edge finished. Now the end of this screw down crown has a bead blasted matte effect, and that contrasts with the embossing of the ESA E brand emblem, so very eye catching. The execution of the crown in terms of the smoothness of the thread action is perfection. It really cannot be improved upon. Silky smooth to unscrew this crown and screw it back in again. No problems with the interfacing of the internal thread in the screw down crown and the external thread of the solid stainless steel crown tube. Very good job. The case polishing is mirror polished on the tops of the lugs, flanks of the case, and also on the underside, which complements the mirror polishing to the high gloss screw down stainless steel case back, which is beautifully engraved. So really nice to have two strap options. One can have this thick vintage grained leather strap with a heavy buckle and tang. As you can see, it's signed with the ESA brand emblem, or alternatively the rubber tropic strap, which I've shown you. Now I have to give credit to ESA for doing a great job with the quality of this genuine leather strap. Stitching is absolutely flawless. There are two keepers on the strap, one's fixed, one slides as one would expect. Really nice to have a good quality thick leather strap. Although it's quite thick, it does feel very supple and it's not going to need any breaking in. This is the kind of watch one could wear immediately after purchasing it, and it doesn't need any breaking in to be comfortable. When I put this watch on the wrist, it immediately feels very comfortable, as if I've worn the strap for a number of years and it's well broken in. So very soft and supple, which is an indication that the calf leather is high grade rather than being cheap quality. Now, with regards to the case back, it's very well finished. It has the original diver emblem, which is laser engraved to a very high standard. As you can see, it also has Made in Germany engraved, and it has 25 joules as it uses the ETA 2824-2, which is a Swiss-made movement. So the watch is entirely made in Pforzheim in Germany, and the movement is bought in from Switzerland from ETA. So I think it's a credit to ESA that, bearing in mind the price point of this piece is mid-tier, it's €689 excluding VAT. They could have, for example, used a cost-cutting measure of using a Sellita SW200-1, but they haven't. They've chosen a more expensive movement, the ETA 2824-2. And as you'll know from my previous reviews, I'm a big fan of the ETA 2824-2. It's a reliable, well-proven workhorse movement which is Swiss-made. So with regards to the rest of the specification, 83 grams, which is a very lightweight piece in a 39mm, C3 Superluminova, which glows in a very aesthetically pleasing green tone, which I'll show you in the lume test. 200 meters of water resistance, which is appropriate. The screw-down stainless steel coin-edge finished crown provides one effective hermetic seal to 200 meters, as does the domed sapphire crystal and the screw-down exhibition caseback, which is solid stainless steel. 2-year international warranty, very reassuring. Now, with regards to the movement specification, as I've discussed, it uses the ETA 2824-2, has 25 joules, it runs at the industry standard for automatic movements, 28,800 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 4 Hz. It has hand winding and hacking, which are useful features, and it also has a 40-hour power reserve, which is perfectly acceptable. Now, the interesting thing to note about the accuracy is the standard grade of ETA 2824-2 has a stated accuracy of plus or minus 12 seconds to plus or minus 30 seconds per day. But bear in mind that the standard grade of ETA movements are only regulated in 2 positions. Now, I want to give special credit to ESA on this because they haven't cut any corners with regards to the ETA movement regulation. They didn't just opt for the standard regulation of 2 positions. They have regulated this movement into 6 positions, which is top grade or chronometer grade regulation. Now, I'm pleased to report that this ETA 2824-2 in this piece is running at plus 5 seconds per day, which is within COSC chronometer limits. So I think it's a credit that they haven't just regulated the movement in 2 positions, which is the standard grade. 6 really is the ultimate. ETA themselves regulate their top grade and chronometer grade movements in 5 positions, but ESA take it a level above that and regulate them to the maximum 6 positions. So that's something I really like about this piece. Good, reliable, solid, well-proven workhorse movement from ETA, but also regulated to 6 positions to improve the accuracy from the standard grade. I think it's just a very good choice and also very accurate too. So I'll show you how it looks on my wrist. Now, the one thing I'm going to say is I have a large 8-inch wrist, and as you can see, the strap is just a fraction too short, but I'll just hold it on my wrist to show you how it will look anyway. If you're a collector with a 6 to 7-inch wrist, you are going to have no difficulties whatsoever in fitting the watch on your wrist, regardless of whether you use this grained leather strap or the rubber Tropic strap. Due to the low profile of the case and also the slim profile of the case back, it's only 12mm thick. As you can see, it's easily going to fit underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts, so a practical daily wear piece due to its low profile form. I love the curved profile of the tops of the lugs and the case. It really does, it's a very snug fit. It does fit very well around the wrist. 50mm is a rather long lug to lug measurement. I regard 48mm to be the sweet spot, but however, it does work with the proportions of the 39mm case. So rather long piece but low profile and sits very flat on the wrist. So it's deceptive. Although it's a 39mm, it actually wears very small on the wrist. I love the blue tint of the AR coating on the underside of the domed sapphire crystal. As you can see, it really does add interest to that domed crystal, and one gets the characteristic slight distortion and magnification of it. So credible choice that they didn't just use a flat sapphire crystal. I like the use of a domed crystal. It really does work with the aesthetic of this being a vintage heritage reissue piece. So let's do a lume test and we'll see how the Super Luminova performs when it's charged up to its absolute maximum. Now I've got high expectations of this because ESA haven't cut any corners with regards to the specification. Everything about this watch really is high specification for its mid-tier price point of only €689 excluding VAT. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, it has not disappointed. Very bright C3 Super Luminova, glowing very brightly on the fully lumed ceramic bezel insert and also on the hands, and I think they've done an outstanding job. They could have cut corners with the lume and just used Luminova, but the C3 Super Luminova really is top grade. Now, the original piece from the 1970s would have used tritium lume, which is now obsolete due to its radioactivity. Tritium was then succeeded by Luminova and then later Super Luminova in the 1990s. So I think C3 Super Luminova is the right choice because it does give the vintage aesthetic of tritium, which glowed green, but the performance is better than tritium, and of course it's not radioactive. So perfect choice. Now the only minor criticism is that the indices are not lumed. Really, it was a difficult decision for ESA because the original version from 1972 didn't have lume plots on the applied indices, and therefore if they had added lume plots it wouldn't have been true to the original. It's meant to be a heritage reissue, and I think they've made the correct decision by not adding lume to the applied indices. The dial layout is the exact same as the original from 1972, and therefore it is an accurate, period correct heritage reissue of that 1972 dive piece. Overall, I think it's good to have ceramic rather than bakelite and to have fully lumed the minute ticks and the Arabic numerals on the ceramic bezel insert. So strong lume performance on the hands and strong lume performance on the bezel insert make up for the lack of lume plots on the applied indices. So lastly, I'll surmise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet two criteria. The watch should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So the respective price point of this 1972 is €689 plus VAT. Yes, I consider it to be excellent quality. There is no question of that. This is not excellent quality, it is outstanding quality. With regards to the build quality, it's also outstanding. No issues whatsoever with regards to the quality control, the build quality, the choice of materials, and overall the case finishing is just sublime. So lastly, I'll just show you the bezel action because this is just the last indication of how high quality this watch is. 120 click unidirectional bezel as one would expect. Good, solid, firm resistance, nice loud clicks which are very pleasant to hear, and minimal backplay, and I'm pleased to report that the alignment of the triangle on the bezel insert perfectly aligns with the 12 o'clock index on the dial. No problems whatsoever with the bezel action. This is one of the best feeling bezel actions I've ever experienced on a watch, and bear in mind I personally own a Rolex Submariner date which I consider to have one of the best bezel actions. Better bezel action than on a Steinhardt Ocean 1. I would say that it is close to Rolex quality with regards to the resistance, the minimal backplay and the alignment, and also the good solid firm clicks. So it's a very high quality bezel action, and it's not just aesthetically pleasing with the coin edge finishing, it does perform as expected. So overall, what are the negatives to the piece? Well, there are none whatsoever. I think it's a credit to ESA. They have created the perfect heritage reissue watch. This is a watch that simply does not have any faults. I like everything about it. I think there is nothing that could be improved upon. The use of a Swiss ETA 2824-2 is the perfect choice. To regulate that movement in 6 positions takes it to the ultimate limit of top grade or chronometer grade accuracy. So good solid Swiss movement in a good solid German made watch in Pforzheim in Germany. So I'm going to declare this a champagne watch for lemonade money, and I highly recommend it to you for your consideration. I hope you've liked my review. Hope you've enjoyed my review of the ESA 1972. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.